For several years, during the hardest stretch of my life, I drew a circle every single morning. I didn't decide to. I'd sit down and a small circular design would come out of me, divided, patterned, different each day, and I found I could read my own inner condition in it the way you'd read a face. I had no theory for it. I guarded these drawings like precious pearls and had almost no idea what they were. It took me years to understand that I'd been drawing the answer to the question this entire channel has been asking. What is all this work actually for? What's at the center of a human being? Tonight, the capstone. This is the one the other 12 videos have been circling, and I mean circling quite literally. I need to introduce a distinction that changes everything, and people miss it constantly. There is your ego, and there is yourself, and they are not the same thing. Your ego is the center of your consciousness. It's the I you refer to, the part that's awake, that decides, that reads its own name and thinks that's the whole of you. For most people, the ego assumes it's in charge, that it sits at the head of the table, the superordinate position, as I called it. The self is something much larger. The self is the center and the totality of the entire psyche, conscious and unconscious together, the whole of which your ego is only a small, lit fragment. Think of it this way. Your ego is the center of the small, daylight room you live in. The self is the center of the whole house, including all the vast, dark floors you've never visited, the personal shadow, the collective unconscious, everything I've spent 12 videos mapping. The self is the center of all of it, and the ego is not that center. The ego only imagined it was. That single correction, dethroning the ego, discovering it, is not the middle of you but a part orbiting a deeper middle, is the quiet earthquake underneath all of Jungian psychology. Let me tell you how I actually found this, because I didn't reason my way to it. I was carried to it. During those years, I kept drawing the circles, and I kept asking, what is this process leading to? Where is its goal? And I'd already learned, painfully, that I could not simply choose a goal that seemed trustworthy to my ego, because every time I'd tried to steer, I'd been brought up short. I'd wanted to get back to my scientific work on myths. I wasn't allowed to. I was being compelled through this process, and I had to let myself be carried by the current without any notion of where it led. And then I noticed something in the drawings. Every path I'd taken, every step, all of it kept leading back to a single point, the middle. It became unmistakable that the circle, the mandala, was the center, and that it was the exponent of all paths, the path to the center, to individuation itself. I understood then that the goal of psychic development is the self. And here's the phrase that gave me back my stability after months of near drowning. There is no linear evolution. There is only a circumambulation of the self. You don't advance toward wholeness in a straight line. You circle it closer and closer, walking around a center that was always there. The confirmation came in a dream. I was in a dark, filthy city, Liverpool, everything black and wet and unpleasant, exactly how I felt then. My companions in the dream complained about the abominable weather and noticed nothing else. But in the center of the city was a pool, and in the center of the pool a small island, and on the island, blazing in sunlight while everything around it drowned in fog, stood a single flowering tree. My companions couldn't even see it. I was carried away by its beauty, and I understood, on waking, that the center is the goal, that one cannot go beyond it, that the self is the principle of orientation and meaning, and that its healing function lies exactly there. Liverpool, I realized, is the pool of life. After that dream, I stopped needing to draw the mandalas. I had reached what, for me, was the ultimate. Now, why does a Swiss psychiatrist's private dream about Liverpool have anything to do with you? Because the mandala, the circle with a center, is not my invention. I found it everywhere, drawn by patients who'd never heard of it, carved into the sacred art of cultures across the whole world, in the rose windows of cathedrals, in Tibetan meditation diagrams, in the healing sand paintings of peoples who never met each other. It's an archetype, one of those deep shared forms from video 10, and it surfaces spontaneously in people precisely when their psyche is reaching for wholeness, for a center in a time of chaos. When your life is flying apart, something very old in you starts trying to draw a circle around a center. That's the self, announcing itself in the only language the deep psyche speaks, image. And this is where the whole series converges. The persona, the shadow, the anima, everything I've mapped. These are all partial. The self is what they're parts of. Individuation, from video 3, was never about polishing the ego or becoming impressive. It was always this: the slow, circling work of shifting your center of gravity off the ego and onto the self, so that the whole of you, light and dark, known and unknown, comes into some working relationship around a true center instead of a false one. That's what the shadow work was for. That's what the dream work was for. All of it was circumambulation. So what do you do with this, practically, since you can't simply decide to have a self the way you decide to have an opinion? First and hardest, stop insisting your ego is the center. Almost every crisis of the second half of life, from video 7, is really the self correcting an ego that thought it was running the whole show. When life brings you up short, when the plans fail and the striving stops working, that's often not mere misfortune. It's the deeper center asserting itself against a smaller one. The correct response is not to grip the wheel harder. It's to ask what's steering and to let yourself be carried, at least far enough to find out. Second, watch for the circle. When your life is in genuine upheaval and images of centers, circles, squares, fourfold patterns start showing up in your dreams or your doodling or your inexplicable pull towards certain symbols, pay attention. That's not decoration. That's the self trying to constellate a center in the middle of your chaos. I drew mine every morning. Yours may come differently, but the deep psyche reaches for the mandala when it's trying to heal, and it's worth learning to recognize the gesture. Third, accept the shape of the path. It is not a ladder. You will not arrive at wholeness and plant a flag. You circle it. You'll pass the same wounds, the same shadow, the same lessons again and again. And the temptation is to feel you're going in circles as failure. You're not. Circumambulation is the path. Each pass is a little closer to the center, and the center was always there, waiting, being what it is, the whole of you, which your ego was only ever a fragment of. I drew the same circle every morning until I understood why. It was the self teaching my ego, patiently, that it had never been the center of anything, and that the real center, the flowering tree blazing in the middle of the drowned city, had been there the entire time, whether I could see it through the rain or not. That's the end of the map. Everything on this channel, every symptom, every mask, every projection was a path, and all the paths, it turns out, lead to the same place. Not forward, inward, and around to the center you already are. If you liked this video, share, like, and subscribe. If you are interested in learning more about Carl Jung's teachings and take the evaluation that will help you understand more about yourself, go to selfindividuation.com.